This is Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia. The East African country is famed for producing some of the world's best long-distance runners, but it's football that remains the most popular sport here. Introduced to Ethiopia in the 1920s by immigrants from Armenia and Greece, the first Ethiopian team was founded in 1935, the same year that the country was invaded by Italy. St. George were, and still are, pioneers of the game here, and during Italian occupation the club became a symbol of Ethiopian nationalism. When the Italians were forced out during World War II, the St. George kit was emblazoned with the red V for victory. Samson Mulugeta is the club captain.
St. George has been one of the best teams in Ethiopia for many years, and many great players have played for the club. Recently, this team has been very successful, and because the team is good, we always want to win the title. This is always the aim of the club, and all players know it from the moment they arrive. Even when we were in the youth team, we always convinced ourselves that winning was the most important thing. This is the mentality that new players who move here from other clubs have to learn when they join the club. And this is one of the main reasons why the club is so successful.
In 2008, St. George won their 22nd Ethiopian League title. That's double the haul of their nearest challenger. Back in 1967, they reached the semi-final of the African Champions Cup, but Ethiopian football has gone backwards since then. St. George hasn't been able to replicate that success in recent times. In 7 attempts, they've never progressed past the first round of the African Champions League. Today, Ethiopia is not one of Africa's major football nations.
It's obvious that we aren't as successful as others, and we have to work hard to rectify that, because in this country we don't have that many professional players. Actually, there's only one, and he's now playing in South Africa. This means that the country has fallen behind, and it's one of the reasons why we're not successful internationally.
Ethiopia was one of the founder members of the Confederation of African Football, and along with Egypt and Sudan, contested the first Africa Cup of Nations in 1957. In 1962, they won that competition at home in Addis Ababa. But since then, success has been scarce, and the national team hasn't qualified for a Cup of Nations since 1982. In recent years, the domestic game has suffered as well, as once large attendances have been reduced by televised matches from Europe. One man who set out to change all that is Milutin Sredojevic, St. George's widely travelled Serbian coach.
I can tell you, and I'm extremely proud of this, that as a player, as a coach, I have been in 107 football countries, and out of 53 African countries, I have been in 48. And daily I'm in contact with network of my friends in each of African countries. Simply I'm in love with Africa and African football.
Defense! And breathing, one.
I'm counting myself like soldier of East African football, and I dream and I believe that even East African football will come to level of West Africa, for example, where many players are playing in Europe. Serious professional football.
Unfortunately, this doesn't look like happening soon, as Ethiopian football only seems to hit the headlines for the wrong reasons. Over the years, a number of players have fled whilst on overseas trips, and in July 2008, the Ethiopian Football Federation was suspended by FIFA. The EFF had split into rival factions, violating FIFA's regulations, and despite FIFA's best efforts, both Ethiopia's clubs and national side are currently banned from competing internationally. This means St. George aren't taking part in this year's African Champions League.
I'm very disappointed. I'm part of the national team and I was there last winter training hard. This happened when we'd been doing well. It's not just me, but the whole country, and all the people were very disappointed. The players were very upset because we were preparing ourselves for 2 months for the qualifiers. Just imagine how frustrating it was not to play after all that preparation. I'd like to say to the country, the government and the federation to do something about it and return things to normal.
Now the Ethiopian Football Federation is hoping that matters may soon move forward.
At the moment, we're working to solve these problems, and we're preparing for the Ethiopian national team to once again participate in international competition. We're also preparing the ground for clubs to again be able to compete in continental competitions. It's our hope that in the near future, we'll be back in the international community.
In the meantime, football fans in Addis Ababa will continue to turn out to support St George in the hope that better times are around the corner for Ethiopian football.